genre.
Welcome back to The Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Around, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Scott Corelli.
I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
And I'm Nick Jimenez.
Today on the show, we are discussing Father's Day, which is the Ninth Doctor's seventh story. And, of course, Father's Day comes to us from writer Paul Cornell. And, this was his first of, I believe, two? How many stories did he end up writing? Just two, right?
What's the other one?
The Human Nature, Family of Blood.
Oh, shoot. Yes, of course. Yeah, I think that is. That's it.
So somehow Paul Cornell has only written two episodes of Doctor Who, which seems absolutely and completely insane.
Yeah.
But he's only written two, and this is one of them. Paul Cornell, of course, at the time was most well known for basically just writing the hell out of the Doctor Who novels that were happening during the Wilderness years, which of course is 1989 to 2003. He had written several stories in the New Adventures range from Virgin Publishing, along with stories from the Missing Adventures. He created Benny Summerfield, a companion during this era who would then go on to star in her own series of books and audio plays because she was so popular, and then eventually made it into Big Finish stories, and also has her own line as the main character of a series of Big Finish stories. He also wrote, of course, the highly acclaimed Human Nature novel, which was, at the time, a Seventh Doctor story, and would later be adapted into a 10th Doctor story in season 3. And he just overall had really become sort of like the Doctor Who guy. He was kind of like the unofficial showrunner of the Wilderness years, because he had just... his books were so good and people really liked him a lot that he just sort of was leading the fray in terms of all of the Doctor Who novels and things like that. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a combination of him and the Big Finish gang before they eventually joined forces. He was so well known for Doctor Who during this time that in 2003, when the BBC decided that they were going to continue Doctor Who as an animated series, he was asked to showrun the animated series. And this was going to be, BBC wanted to basically launch their web content. And so they created an animated web series that was going to be The Ninth Doctor. And The Ninth Doctor was played by Richard E. Grant. And the story, the initial story was called The Scream of the Shalka, and this was actually released and was meant to be the spearhead of an ongoing series, except Russell T Davies showed up and was like, "Hey, I want to relaunch Doctor Who," and they're like, "Oh, okay, great," and they just canceled it. So there's only one animated adventure with the Richard E. Grant Ninth Doctor, and that is The Scream of the Shalka, which we should probably cover at some point just for funsies.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, so that exists, but that was the only thing that exists from this sort of like lost era of Doctor Who. Because Russell T Davies took over the show, and of course Russell T Davies knew full well all about Paul Cornell and wanted to make sure that as a way of like, one, Paul Cornell being an incredible writer, but two, wanting to show respect to the Wilderness Years and the man who sort of kept the Doctor Who train moving during this time. He wanted to sort of like, make a bridge to those fans. And so he invited him to write an episode of the show. Now, what I find interesting about this era, like the Russell T Davies era of the show. Now, I don't know entirely how the production or the production of scripts worked during the Moffat era, but in the Russell T Davies era, I think the thing that I find really interesting is that there were very few. I think maybe just Stephen Moffat. There were very few writers who were allowed to just write whatever they wanted. Just like, here, free reign, write what you want. What was actually happening was that Russell T Davies was, when he would go in with a full season of stories, he would present all of the stories. Like he would write basically like a treatment for the season, and it would be broken down into episodes. And they would all be sort of like episode ideas. And those were what he would give to writers. So he would find a sort of pool of writers and he would be like, which of these stories is most interesting to you? And they would choose one. And then they would sort of write their version of his idea. So it wasn't like a full outline. It was just like basically like a concept. It was like a paragraph concept, and that was it. And so they would take that and then they would run with it and write their episode, which I think is really interesting and explains a lot about how structured the Russell T Davies era is, as far as it all feels like Russell T Davies, even when he's not writing the show. And the seasons themselves have that, they uphold that like very like rigid structure as far as like, a present day episode followed by an episode in the future, followed by an episode in the past, followed by a two-parter. And it's like, there's a very, very strong structure to his seasons. And it turns out that this is why, because he, would, write these outlines before the even hiring the writers. And so one of those episodes in this first season was called Rose's Father. And, it would feature Rose repeatedly observing her dad's death in 1987, while the Doctor in 2005 hears the chronicle of the man's life from Jackie. And it was meant to be a very cheap episode to produce. No effects whatsoever, or at least extremely minimal effects, and just be predominantly a character piece. But when he presented it to Paul Cornell, the first thing that he did was like, this needs a monster, which worked out because the head of drama, Jane Tranter, was actually complaining to Davies that there was a lack of monsters in this season. So to keep costs down, Cornell originally envisioned the Time Reapers to actually be like the traditional Cal and Scythe Grim Reaper look. Which I actually think would have worked out better. Now, granted, I really like the design of the Reapers in this story, but the CGI doesn't hold up at all, even a little bit. It's actually really bad. But like, I like the design of the creatures. I think they're scary, but I don't think I really like the idea of the Grim Reaper, introducing the idea of a Grim Reaper being this thing that protects time. And when you save someone who's supposed to die, the Grim Reaper shows up. Like, I think that's interesting. Like, I like that as like, that feels very Doctor Who to me. Explaining something that never needed explaining, like that's very Doctor Who to me. And so I really like that idea. So I actually think it's kind of unfortunate that they ended up changing it, because I think the idea of like a Grim Reaper just like walking around in the background, or just like, holding a scythe and just like staring, I think that could have been like pretty creepy.
Drinking a little pina colada.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I guess I'm on vacation. Since we're just not letting people die anymore. Great. But yeah, so they ended up changing this to more of a traditional monster, and using CG effects and everything. Eventually, this episode was titled Wounded Time, and then changed again right before the season began in February of 2005 to Father's Day. And that's how we ended up where we ended up with this story. So, we don't do recaps for the new Who episodes because we kind of assume that everyone has seen them and has access to them and has watched them. So I don't know. I just want to get right into it because I think that Father's Day is, it's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, which is kind of crazy considering like how early this was, and watching it now, I was just kind of struck by how cheap it is. Like it's not a lot happens in this, but then like everything happens in this, and it's just this really special episode. Like I don't know that there's any other. Is there any other Doctor Who episode that's anything like this?
It's funny. Listening to you, I was reminded of, I don't know, like it is such a small episode, but it is also like just really human and big-hearted. And when I think about how bombastic and operatic and like the lengths that Stephen Moffat would go to generate emotion and pathos, and just how effortlessly that Paul Cornell's able to do it within this episode. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't think the show's ever dared to get this simple again or this small again.
Because the stakes are not very large in the grand scheme of everything, but they are like, I don't know. It's a big deal for Rose, and then for the Doctor too, because the Doctor cares about Rose. So
yeah,
I like that the dichotomy of like how personal it is. I don't know. That's kind of like my favorite sort of story. Is like it's a very personal story, but the stakes are very like low in like the universal scheme of things, but it's like enormous in the character's world.
Yeah, because that's what keeps the audience coming back more so than like, oh no, time's going to fold in on itself again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the most Back to the Future that Doctor Who has ever gotten.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Just sort of in terms of like how it's not an end of the world story. It's just like very small stakes.
Yeah.
And
dealing with very universal, like human, which is why I think it is so easy to empathize with Rose in this episode, even if, she makes time mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, it has like a sort of a thesis statement, which I think is really interesting. I mean, it's the whole episode is about how, she's like too afraid to be with her father when he's dying, and like to the point where she bails the first time and then she just saves him the second time. And then it's like finally, like at the end of the episode, she finally like can go and be with him.
And accepts it. Yeah.
Yeah. And accept it. Exactly. So like, it's really interesting that that's like what the actual episode is about is her finally, gaining the, I don't know if courage is the right word, but the fortitude maybe gaining the fortitude to actually do what she came there to do, which is just be with him. And I think that makes this episode really special. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that Paul Cornell has never been invited back.
Is that just because like it never worked out, or like?
No, he was never invited back. He's talked about this on Twitter before. People are like, "Hey, why haven't you written any Doctor Who episodes?" He's like, "Because they haven't invited me. No one contacts me."
Oh my God.
Yeah, like throughout the Moffat era, like Moffat never reached out to him. And it was maybe he was too busy to do an episode every season.
Yeah.
And that's why he's only in, season 1 and season 3 of the Davies era. But Moffat never reached out to him. I don't think Chibnall has reached out to him. So it's just like, I don't know what these people are thinking. Like, bring back Paul Cornell.
Right?
Man, it's insane. Yeah. So going into the actual like meat of this episode, I love the two sets of Dr. Rose bit, and I'm like kind of fascinated by when Rose runs past them to save her dad. The first set disappears. Mm-hmm. Like just that. The idea of just like, well, they can't exist because that's not what happened when they were there. It's just, I don't know. Time travel is funky. I love that.
Yeah. And man, boy, like half a second is not wasted on that obliterated Doctor and Rose.
Yeah, I know.
The Doctor's like, whatever.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, no, it's great. I will say, I found myself wondering why the Doctor was helping with this without any rules. Like, he wasn't providing her any rules.
Oh, I love that. I actually, I don't know. There was something very romantic to me almost about the very beginning when he's like, no, your wish is my command, whatever you want. Because he, like, trusts her enough to, like, let her make the mistake to an extent.
Yeah.
And then, he gets, he reacts to what he thinks is a betrayal, but I don't know. Something about how game he was just really like, oh, he really already like loves her a lot.
Yeah. I guess that's true. He still calls her a stupid ape though.
Yeah. He's like almost setting her up for failure though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you don't give her any rules. Like, how is she supposed to know that she can't do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like her thought process as she explains to him is, hey, like he's in the grand scheme of things, he's pretty meaningless. Like what's the harm, and she doesn't understand that, there's a lot of harm that can happen, but she would have understood had he, explained
said
it
anything?
to her.
Like said anything.
Yeah, literally anything. Like, hey, you might think about saving your dad. Please don't do that because XYZ.
Yeah, like, did he know that the Reapers existed? Or was this like a discovery for him? Like, whoa, what are these things? I already can't remember.
The argument could be made that he does know because the Reapers are actually in, or a version of the Reapers or something like that, are in Storm Warning, the episode that we listen to, the first 8th Doctor story, because
what are they called? Like something sores.
Yeah. So I forget
Hortosaurs?
Hoarders, yeah, something like that. But they're very similar. They're flying beasts that get mad when you save people who are supposed to die.
Oh, like Charlie.
Yes, exactly.
It was on a dirigible. If our listeners need any reason to check that one out.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like that he, the Doctor feels so betrayed. He feels used. There's that moment where he says, you said, when I said that I had a machine that's traveled in space, you didn't want to travel with me. When I said that it traveled in time, you did. Mm. And she was like, no, it's not like I was planning anything. And it's just like, he's starting to like think back, like, was this always the plan? Is this what she was always planning on doing, was saving her dad? Was she using me? And I think that's, it's interesting to see the Doctor be so hurt. Like, yeah. He feels like he's been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of like the Beast.
The Beast?
I don't know, just like these extreme emotional, like, no, you were planning this, or like Phantom of the Opera. I don't know, just like,
oh. Okay.
Well, I mean, he trusts her so implicitly, and then now he's just like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been vulnerable with this person.
This ape.
This stupid ape. Yeah. So what do we think about Rose's dad? Like the sort of this. I find the revelation that he's kind of a loser really interesting.
It makes perfect sense to me that this guy plus Jackie equals Rose. Because like Jackie, like his decency is pretty apparent early on in the episode. Like, oh, this is a good person. He's just kind of a schmuck.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, like you can tell that Jackie is like, loves Rose and is a good mom, but she can just be also kind of like, I don't know, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Rose gets like the best parts of both of them and becomes Rose.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Cass.
Oh, I think that's in keeping with like how we remember people versus how they actually are. Like, I don't know. There's been a lot of death in my family in the past 5 years, so like we're all like, I don't know. You have this image of the person in your head as they existed to you, but that's not anything how that person actually existed.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the most poignant scenes in the episode is when Rose is describing to her dad his memory of her. Like, oh, he was always so reliable. He was always there for me. And he's like, that's not me. Like, that's not the person you just described. Like, that's not who I am. And that's so bizarre, but it's so true. Like, we are different. The people that we are inside of our own heads is often very different than who we are to our most loved people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What do we think about him possibly, like, do you think that he was cheating on Jackie, or do you think he's just such a doofus that he just keeps finding himself in these situations? Like, do you think that Jackie is sort of just jumping down his throat at any little perceived transgression, or do you think he's actually transgressing?
I don't know. I can't really see anything in the episode that stuck out to me as like, oh, this kid's kind of a cad,
Well, he does try to hit on his daughter.
Does that change the audience's...
the Bermuda Triangle conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
When he tries to hit on her and she's like, no. As far as you're concerned, that is the Bermuda Triangle.
I took that to mean her her sex life is like, that's what I don't know. It's probably wrong.
Oh no, he says if I had a girl like you.
Yeah, he goes to call her cute or something, and she's just like, no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, yeah, he 100% cheated on Jackie.
Does that change the audience's perception of him though? Like, I don't know. Does that change our moral judgment of her dad, or?
I guess like he's ultimately remembered as a man, both flawed and blessed. So it's like, if he had like, it's a pretty major indiscretion, but like he's presented as a human, just like very average. And
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it would change my opinion either way. You got hit by a car.
Yeah, he did. He did get hit by a car. Speaking of cars, I like when Rose and her dad are driving together and they're playing like it's the song that's playing is like the Rickroll song, Never Gonna Give You Up, and I think that's funny for multiple reasons. One, because that's kind of what the episode is about, is never gonna give you up, but
never gonna let you down, or desert
but also that the fact that like this whole thing was kind of a Rickroll, like it's just like it's just sort of like, you thought you saved your dad, but no, you didn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Womp
womp. But I thought that was interesting that was playing in the car. So what one thing that I thought was I thought of while watching this that I feel like is kind of a missed opportunity. Like I know that they make the joke in the episode about like oh, we named the dog Rose, but it would have been really interesting if the Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel two-parter, that alternate universe, had been caused because she's saved her dad. Like it was like it would have been like if it was like the version of events that happened because she saved her dad.
Oh.
That would have been interesting for sure. Like
Yeah.
some connective tissue.
Right. Where it's like, yeah, you put this, you fixed things, or your dad fixed things, as the case may be. But things were fixed, but that universe didn't cease to exist. Like it still existed somewhere out there. And this is what happened. Like this was, this is how, because of that, one thing led to another, and
Right.
this was the universe that happened.
Well,
Yeah.
that would make sense as to why they end up there, because it is it's like Rose's fault that universe
Yes.
exists in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they never explain how they end up there anyway. The TARDIS just like derp and then just goes to the other universe. So
Yeah. And I would have felt better about Jackie ending up with that version of her dad. Because right? Like eventually, like when that happens, because that does happen, right? Doesn't that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When that happens, it's sort of this thing where it's like, oh, his crappy version of Jackie died. and he ended up with like the better, cooler version of Jackie. But like it would have
Jackie
been
plus.
better if it would have been like more I guess I don't know, poignant, that like she is getting her husband back. It's not like it's a totally different version of him. It's who he would have been had he not had Rose successfully saved him from dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I feel like that would have been more I feel like I would have been more satisfied by them ending up together had that been the case. Rather than just like a purely alternate universe.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway.
I think the thing that I like the most about this episode and this era of the show in general is how, I don't know. I like all the Doctor's little speeches about how important like the ordinary person is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the cornerstone of this era of the show, which I love a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love particularly the speech that he gives to the bride and groom about like their own significance, about like he envies them.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Moffat era is like, yeah, sure, all humans are important, but this one's really important.
Yeah. And you remember 11 having such contempt for things like laundry or getting married or like ordinary human life.
Yeah.
Because he was
That's
going
true.
through a midlife crisis.
That's true. He's not into it. Something else I don't think I ever noticed before, but watching it this time, the Reavers eat a lot of children.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was shocked. I was like, wow, they killed a lot of kids in this.
Yeah, babies.
Babies. Yeah. A baby. There was like a toddler shoe, and then like some kid on a bike.
Yeah. A whole
It just-
playground disappears.
Yeah, just killed a lot of children, man. Wow.
Is this one where the dead get like reset, or are they dead forever?
They get reset, though. In my mind, the version of this where Rose sets up an alternate universe is that all of those people stayed dead, and that was like part of the reason why the universe changed so much.
Yeah, because I guess they're always going to remember that day,
Right.
Like, because Jackie's telling the story at the end.
Right.
Oh, but
right,
Mickey still has his grandma in that alternate universe.
right.
Or
right,
Ricky or whatever his name is. Also.
Right.
Graham died in this? I missed that too.
Yeah, when she's pushing him on the swing. Unless that's his mom, but like I thought his grandmother is the one who raised him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, little Mickey, that was funny.
Straight for Rose.
Just straight for Rose. She's like, I think I accidentally. What did she say?
I think he imprinted on me like a mother
Yeah,
had.
he imprinted on me. That was so funny. Poor Mickey.
Do you have a boyfriend? No, not at all. No, no one.
No one. Never.
Never.
Not once.
Not close. Meanwhile, he's at work being like, "Oh yeah, my girl Rose. Yeah, she'll be back soon. My girlfriend Rose.
Oh,
My girlfriend Rose. My sweet, beautiful girlfriend Rose. I love her. Love her so much. She's perfect.
Yeah.
She loves me.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, mate. She loves you, mate." Oh, poor bastard.
Oh man.
She's gone, isn't she?
I really love that line where he's like her dad is gonna go explain to Jackie that Rose is their daughter, and she stops him and he's like, "What, are you afraid to tell people?" And she's like, she's not gonna get it. She didn't even understand how to program the VCR. And he's like, "Oh, I showed her that yesterday." And she looks at him and he's like, "All right, point taken."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh yeah, this is just a great episode. Like just absolutely brilliant. I wish this feels like, honestly, like I don't know how well Paul Cornell would have fit into the Moffat era, but I would love to see Paul Cornell write for the 13th Doctor.
Oh God, yes.
I think he would fit
that,
right
yeah.
into that era. Yeah.
And
Because this kind of story, this sort of like low key story, and even Human Nature is a pretty low key story, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of story would fit right into that era of the show, I think.
Yeah, like maybe that could be the way to fix some of the identity issues that I almost called it season 1, but whatever, had, which is like, yeah, maybe point the lens back down onto Earth. What does like 13 look like when she's investigating and helping out people's lives? I mean, she's so empathetic. She's so much more interested in people than like 11 or even 12 was.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, this is this is a really, really fantastic episode. I think one of the best of the New Who era.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly one of the best of the Russell T Davies era. Probably a top 5 for this era, which is really saying something, because there's some really good ones. Yeah, I don't know. That's just for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But
It's a really underrated era of the show, and I guess our episode. Just say again, like, don't skip 9.
well, and just in general, like this episode starts a run of episodes that is like one of the strongest runs in New Who, I think. Like, we go from this episode, from Father's Day to The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, to Boomtown, to the Dalek 2-parter. Like, what a run of episodes. I mean,
Right.
that's nuts. So really, really good. Can't say the same about the run of episodes that the 10th Doctor is currently in.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that next time. But yeah, this is the start of like the end of the 9th Doctor, and just a run of really, really fantastic episodes that I'm excited to talk about, every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So really pumped about this. Small little bit of trivia that maybe not a lot of people will care about, but I do. The concept artist for this episode was Brian Hitch, who would go on to draw the Ultimates comic, which inspired the Avengers and Black Nick Fury and all that stuff. Yeah, so including Samuel L. Jackson's casting, because he drew Samuel L. Jackson when he drew Nick Fury, and that's how Samuel L. Jackson was cast. So anyway, Brian Hitch is
Here's to you.
Yeah, big time comic book artist, and really kind of changed. He brought comics, single-handedly brought comics into the widescreen era in the early 2000s. He was the first one who treated comics like movie storyboards, and changed the sort of like storytelling that was happening in comics, kind of single-handedly, weirdly. So anyway,
That's
Brian
right.
Hitch is pretty important to the history of comic books. So he was the concept artist for this episode,
Well,
which is
let's thank our
really
lucky
cool.
stars that he wasn't hit by a car.
Yeah. True. Anyway. All right. Well, I think that's all we got here, right? Any other closing thoughts on this particular episode?
This was really hard for me to watch, but I'm glad I rewatched it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's not so bad. And then the end, like, happened, and I started bawling like a baby.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, that's fine. It's cathartic. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. It's just a damn good episode. Anyway. All right. Well, that's Father's Day. Next time we talk about the Ninth Doctor, it'll be the Are You My Mummy 2-parter, which I'm really excited about the first time that Moffat wrote for Doctor Who officially.
Aw.
Yep. Just a baby Doctor Who writer, Stephen
I'm
Moffat.
pumped.
So we'll be talking about that next time when we get to the Ninth Doctor. But when we return with a new episode, we will be talking about the Idiot's Lantern, which is, Cass really summed it up.
Get your pomp and circumstance on.
Oh boy. So anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure that you check out the Facebook group, the Doctor's Companion Listener Society. Talk to us there. Let's liven things up over there, huh? If you're listening to this, maybe go join in there and talk about the latest episodes that we're discussing. And then if you are wanting, more episodes of TDC or episodes more often, or maybe some bonus content or that sort of thing, you're going to want to go to duelinggenre.com/support and become a Patreon supporter, because that helps everything run a little more smoothly, and we will be able to have more time for more episodes and things like that if we have a little more support over there. So that's duelinggenre.com/support. TeePublic Stores, duelinggenre.com/merch. And of course, if you are doing any shopping on Amazon, go to duelinggenre.com/Amazon and help us out over there. You just use that link, shop as you normally do, and we'll get a little cut of whatever you buy out of Amazon's pocket. So we appreciate everyone who does that. Just, if you have a Amazon bookmark, just delete it, type in duelinggenre.com/Amazon, and then re-bookmark it. And then every time you go to Amazon, you'll just automatically be using our link, and you won't even know the difference. It's
Boom.
Yeah, great. Easy.
The future is now.
And how. And we'll be back next time with the Idiot's Lantern.